CLI a cross-platform IDE for C and C++. Download now.
Hello, my name is Sam Drage. I am here today to talk about this very long question. We will break it down, don't worry. So where does AI fit on the spectrum of accessibility and difficulty aids? Yeah, we'll get through it, don't worry. So first of all, who am I? Hi, Sam Drage. Went to University of Portsmouth, where I did computer science undergrads, BSc, looking at the accessibility of emoji with the help of Dr. Gale. And then I went on to do a computer games technology MSc, where I looked at accessibility and game narrative, which sounds very fancy. Basically, does making a game accessible make the story better, basically, and the experience better? I'm currently a full stack developer at Habitat Learn. I'm a massive nerd. And I'm recent dog dad as of 2 weeks ago. That's Hugo. I love him to bits. So that's a little bit about me. So let's now talk about NaNoWriMo. Who here has heard of National Novel Writing Month? A few people. That's actually quite good. Excellent. So National Novel Writing Month is a event that was founded in 1999 and has run consecutively for 25 years. And the whole idea is that you, as an amateur or new writer, write a novel in a month, like 10,000 words, 50,000 words, which is incredible. All open source, all these brilliant forums and like help guides and things like that from existing authors coming together and help each other. And alongside that, as an event, came the NaNoWriMo organization, who guided everything, ran the forums, and even held a competition. So how did that go last year? Yeah, they made an announcement that for the competition element, they would be accepting AI submissions for novels. And there was quite a bit of backlash. People did not like the idea of an AI writing a novel and being submitted alongside a novel that a human had worked tirelessly for an entire month. And in response to the backlash, they doubled down and, amongst other things, said that being anti-AI was ableist. A very problematic thing to say, which we'll get into in a bit. This actually raises a very important question. Is generative AI, for example, ChatGPT or Midjourney, an accessibility tool? Does it actually help us, or does it just make things easier, or does it make things harder? That's the thing. So, first of all, let's define some terminology. So, I mentioned in the title that where does it fall on that spectrum of accessibility and difficulty? So, the way to think about it is difficulty is your jargon, the subject matter, and the density of ideas within a book. Okay? So, could be quantum physics. If it's easy, then it'll be explained in a way that, a 5-year-old can understand, whereas if it's hard, then it'll be explained at a PhD level. There are videos of that on YouTube where they're like describing it at 6 different skill levels. That's what difficulty is. Whereas with accessibility, it's your font, it's your line spacing and the page color and the page feel. It's all those things that actually impact how you get that information. So both of these are topics that are elements that affect how you consume the media and how you consume the book, but they are both, very different elements. And it's a conversation that happens a lot in gaming with regards to do accessibility features make a game easier? Should a difficult game have accessibility? I'm sorry for banging the mic there. So we're going to play a little bit of a game. So I have 2 books. I love this bag. It came with books inside. So I have here Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. The scanned image is my childhood copy courtesy of my dad. This is a copy that I bought for £10 secondhand in the town centre at lunchtime. And this is Earthsea, the first four books by Ursula K. Le Guin. One of these, in my opinion, is a bit more accessible than the other one. Now, I think the scan actually corrected some of the mistakes a bit. But if you ever open up a copy of this version of Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, you'll see that there's some quite funky fonts going on. Page texture is not quite nice, and it's all quite close together. Whilst it's quite similar on the other side, the fonts are a little bit. The serifs on the fonts aren't as severe, in my opinion, which helps with visual accessibility. And you have the bonus point of a map, which helps immensely with cognitive load because you don't have to try and imagine the whole world and how it's laid out. So I said this was going to be a game. I've just explained to you exactly why. That was my bad. But yeah, so in my opinion, this one is a slightly more accessible one. And it's an important thing to note that they are both considered roughly equal in terms of reading age. I believe this is 8+ and this is 10+. So in terms of difficulty, they are the same. Meanwhile, two more books. We have here How to Teach Philosophy to Your Dog. This is a popular science book that I love. And yeah, it's great. And on the other hand, we have a companion to the philosophy of technology, which is the Black Crow Companion's Philosophy version. It's very thick. Lovely bit of bedtime reading. I am, as you can see by the bookmark, I'm currently reading this, not to be pretentious. So, which one of these do you think is more accessible, looking at the first pages of both? So got people pointing at that one? Yeah, got people pointing at that one. Which one do you think's easier? Yeah, I agree with you there. Yeah, you can see from the jargon being used in the companion, it's obviously a lot more dense, a lot more ideas. And I can tell you now, it's basically just a book of very dense essays, all thoroughly cited and everything. Whereas that's more of a story. It's a lovely story about a man and his dog. I highly recommend it. I highly recommend both. So we've looked at kind of like the difference between accessibility and difficulty. How about, let's move on to the AI half of things. Now we're specifically talking about limited memory AI. We haven't got to self-aware yet, thank goodness. We're working on theory of mind. Reactive machine, kind of boring. Not kind of boring, useful, but not interesting. To me, at least. I keep having to qualify things. So we're going to be looking at generative AI, which have a limited memory that kind of, keeps in mind what it's learned, what you've told it, and builds something with it. I'm going to put these down. There we go. So before we move on, that was a very quick overview of AI. Obviously, that's the more interesting part. Why am I talking about AI, accessibility in AI and not any of these other massive things that are going on in the AI space? Put simply, nobody really thinks about accessibility that often, I found. It's always an afterthought that you then have to go in with Lighthouse on a website and go and assess it and then fix it. It's because it's a minority issue, it's often left out of training data. Obviously, yeah, it's just something you have to think about because obviously AI tends to be heavily Americanized English, which could be a problem if English isn't your first language. So yeah, we've got all these other issues, but accessibility is mine. I'm covering it. We're gonna solve it together. So cases for accessibility for generative AI being an accessibility tool. As you can see, the lists are quite short. I'm trying to keep this as condensed as possible. Number one, it reduces cognitive load. It does, in fact, take some of the job of having to organize your thoughts and plan things out and puts it elsewhere, which could be an issue for someone with a cognitive disability, which is great. And I've also seen examples of it being used for people with persons with ADHD, using it to plan out and help with procrastination. And going on to the second point, it ensures consistency. So, for example, someone with autism or any emotional processing disorder could use it to assess the content of an email, figure out whether or not what they're writing back in response is suitable. But yeah, How about against, though? Pictures of Frida Kahlo and Vincent van Gogh will come to in a second. They're there for absolutely no reason, I assure you. Oh, look at this. First bullet point. Implies that that people with disabilities are unable to make art. This was the issue with the NaNoWriMo controversy and the claim that they made of it being ableist. You're just making the claim there that by saying that being anti-AI is ableist, you are saying that you believe, that's a lot of clauses, that people with disabilities are unable to make art. Bit of straw man there, I know, I'm sorry. But as we've seen throughout history, we've got people like Vincent van Gogh who had depression and bipolar, who was an excellent artist. Frida Kahlo, who was disabled by polio at a young age, also another amazing artist. These are both self-portraits. So, yeah. Second point, the tools themselves aren't necessarily accessible. I don't personally tend to frequent ChatGPT, but I've seen recent videos of people looking at it, and I can just say it looks horrible. The interface is all over the place. There are borders that clip into each other. It's not good. It's not an accessible tool in of itself to get a handle of. And also, third and final point, it's expensive. If you're going to say that AI is an accessibility tool, the world is inherently more expensive for persons with disabilities because you have to pay for extra things to get around. You have to pay for a taxi if you can't walk a long distance. You have to pay for a wheelchair. You have to pay for a screen reader. All of these different things. You might even have to pay to use a printer because you can't use a screen for a long period of time. So by saying that and having these really expensive but top-notch AI models, you're applying more of a difficult disability tax. So how about if we swing to the other end of the spectrum and look at this difficulty? Is AI making things easier for us? Yes, it's an instant response to everything that you ask. You just kind of ask it a question and it will come up with something, which is amazing. It also makes it easier to outline your thoughts and build everything. That is one of the crossover areas with accessibility. It makes things easier because it's on demand. You can just get it. However, that is also a bit of a Faustian bargain. For anyone unaware, Faustian bargain basically means you're making a deal for instant power and knowledge now at a later cost. So there are studies that are starting to come out which show that by using AI to do creative work for you, you make it harder to do that creative work yourself later on. Your brain is a muscle, it needs to work. If you don't work it, it atrophies and you lose those skills. So, oh, battery's running low. That's not good. So yeah, there are these studies coming out. So it's like, that completely threw me. I'm very sorry. Yep, cool. So yeah, Faustian bargain. You get the instant gratification of the AI now at the cost of not necessarily being able to convince it to do the task yourself later on, which might not be great given the way that AI kind of implodes in on itself, and it could be a bubble that bursts. That's me speculating. Don't bet on that. So anyway, what ended up happening to NaNoWriMo? Well, not great. This is why you don't use the font version of emojis, by the way. You meant to just take a screenshot. This is meant to be the grimacing emoji. So basically, I want to hammer home that this wasn't the big thing that ended NaNoWriMo. It was the final nail in the coffin. The organization had had other controversies earlier in the year regarding their forums and certain activities on it. But NaNoWriMo as an organization essentially and its forums are essentially just dead. It's gone. However, it does continue to happen. It will probably continue as a community-led effort, event every year. I encourage everyone to take part. It's fun. So what can we learn from all of this? What is the important thing we can do? So number one, as always, remember AI's biases, specifically that it wants to make you happy. So yeah, that's my big message at all times. But also remember that it might not include the edge cases that are needed for minorities, especially disabled people. Also, as always, consider your use case. Is it worth using AI? Is this something that you want to throw away? Is this a skill that you want to develop later on, or is this something that you want to have quick gratification for now? It's like quickly generating an image for a meme or something. And the big question I want everyone to kind of consider as we finish up is, why is accessibility so often overlooked? Why is it that it is an edge case? Because statistically, everyone in this room will at some point be disabled, whether that is permanently or temporarily. The moment if you break your arm, for example, you are then disabled, and it becomes more difficult, say, to use your keyboard on your laptop. Why is it that with, I believe, 1 in 5 people across the globe having some form of disability, why is it overlooked so often? And yeah, fun slide of references. Thank you very much for listening.